Hey guys, back here again to give you a video response, a somewhat late video response, I'm sorry about that, to EmeraldFlowsion62, who uploaded a video in which he expressed concerns for the future direction of pro wrestling if the companies that are going to be in charge of that future direction are going to be companies such as Ring of Honor, and to a lesser extent he mentioned Evolve. My reason for doing this video goes back to the set of videos that I did, which were partly inspired by a response he left to one of my comments towards him, in which he pretty much expressed the view that Jakara's wrestling and Ring of Honor's wrestling cannot be directly compared. They have to be looked at as two different styles. And after he pretty much introduced me to that way of thinking, I agreed with him, and I pretty much did two videos supporting that opinion. And I'm doing this response to him now because I think that in much the same way that Jakara and Ring of Honor's wrestling cannot be directly compared, you cannot directly compare their way of storytelling, because they look at it in two completely different ways. Ring of Honor's storytelling, I think, is done in a way, and I think it is definitely done. I think they do have storytelling going on that is very much necessary for their product to succeed and be enjoyable to watch. But I think they do their storytelling in a way that allows the in-ring product that they continue to, champion or claim to champion. It allows that in-ring action to be kept at the forefront of their product, which is what their aim is, and I think they managed to do it in a way that is successful. I'm going to go into that, but he talked about MMA, about how MMA is affecting pro wrestling, and how if pro wrestling does not fully take advantage of all that it can take advantage of, then pro wrestling will eventually decline further under the threat of MMA and all the fans that MMA is stealing from pro wrestling. Because you have to recognize that MMA is affecting the fortunes of pro wrestling, because a large portion of the audience is the same, and different companies will react in different ways to the threat from mixed martial arts. You have WWE, who, in response to the threat from MMA, has forged for themselves a new target audience, and through that has gained sponsorship deals and new forms of advertising that generate them new forms of income to kind of alleviate the pain from the pay-per-view buys that is being affected by the UFC and such of that. Then you have TNA, and TNA's mode of taking pro wrestling into the future has been to follow a campaign of reckless spending and taking ideas from the past. So who knows what's going on there? I really don't know. So pretty much with TNA doing what they're doing right now, you have to look at independent companies for the change that you need to force WWE to kind of change the way they do business for the better in the future, because no one's going to be able to challenge WWE directly for number one in the world, but someone has to make a big enough impact to where they can change the way that WWE does business by affecting the fan base enough to where WWE needs to do that. And you have to look at the indie companies, of course, because of what TNA is doing. I'm going to agree with him on one thing. Pretty much, well, I'm going to agree partly with him on several things, but in one aspect of it I do agree with him 100%, and that comes to Evolve. As they stand now, they are limiting what pro wrestling can achieve and what pro wrestling's charm is. I'm going to be fair and say it may improve with time when they establish win-loss records to a better degree, and maybe they can tell a better story in the ring once the win-loss records are more important, because right now they're just starting. But right now, they haven't really started off in a way that makes you confident about their long-term prospect, and that's probably something they needed to do, and they didn't do that. So for right now, I agree with him that if Evolve is what is the future of the holds, then we're not in a good position. But to me, Ring of Honor is not. It cannot be bracketed in the same light. I don't think he was trying to do that. I don't think he was trying to bracket Ring of Honor with Evolve and say they're both the same. I don't think he was trying to do that, but I think you have to look at Ring of Honor storytelling in a different way. I think Ring of Honor does tell stories, but once again they tell simple ones that keeps the in-ring product emphasized, and that might be the best way to appeal to the MMA pro wrestling fan, the MMA fan who has not already decided that pro wrestling is fake, so it's automatically garbage to watch, which there are a large portion of those who will look down on the concept of pro wrestling no matter what company is delivering something that they might like. So there's that kind of MMA fan that's kind of impossible to reach at this point. But there are those MMA fans that kind of will watch pro wrestling if it's what they like. And to me, Ring of Honor does tell stories that they might like. They tell stories based on competitive spirits, striving to be the best, reaching for one's dreams, the kind of stories that allow Ring of Honor wrestlers to go into the ring when the time is right and deliver the great match that they that Ring of Honor is intent on keeping the focal point of their product. You know, that's the kind of stories that they tell. That's the kind of stories that many people can relate to, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. But there is a big challenge that comes with storytelling of that type. You know, those stories have definitely been told time and time again. They're pretty much indirectly told whenever you go into the ring and have a match, because, you know, competitive spirits and striving to be the best is what you want, is what in kayfabe terms you would want to do whenever you go into the ring. The challenge comes to tell those stories and make them entertaining. It comes with fresh new storytellers. That's what you have to do in order to keep telling the same stories again and again and make them entertaining. You know, I mean, there's only so many different stories you can tell before, you know, you run out of ideas. And when you're reusing stories such as, you know, simple ones that Ring of Honor does, striving to be the best, competitive spirits, reaching your goals, reaching your dreams, all that stuff, you need fresh new storytellers. You need fresh new personalities that can give a unique dimension to even a gimmick that has already been done. Because, you know, look at Kevin Steen right now. Kevin Steen right now, if you wrote down his heel gimmick on a piece of paper, you know, that's definitely something that you can, you know, you can see it has been done before. But Kevin Steen has the personality to give a unique dimension to the gimmick of a heel that is not all there in the head. And then you have the actual feud between Steen and Generico, which if you wrote that down on paper, it would sound like a very, very simple feud. But the characters and the personalities and the storytellers involved allow it to, you know, allow it to feel fresh even in 2010, which I think is something that they Ring of Honor have achieved in a very big way. You know, I would definitely think that if ECW and TNA would be a much better idea if the Extreme presentation was going to be under the charge of new faces, but instead they're going with the exact same guys that led the original ECW, and that's where they're making their mistake, and I cannot say enough bad things about that. He also brought up Chikara as, in his mind, the most well-rounded promotion that there is, and the best candidate, I guess, for leading pro wrestling into the future. And I have no problem with agreeing with him there. You know, I love Chikara. I followed the product following the product this year. I've never looked back. I really, really enjoy what they do. But I guess the main point of this video should not be taken as me arguing in favor of Ring of Honor over Chikara. That's not what I'm doing. Don't think that it is. What I am doing is trying to offset his fears over Ring of Honor being the future template for the entire pro wrestling, or at least the mainstream pro wrestling industry. Because in my mind, as I said, with Ring of Honor's chosen formula, the most important thing for them to do is to push new storytellers in order to tell the stories and keep them fresh in a way that allows them to deliver in the ring the way they always do. And they are doing that. So I have no problem with Ring of Honor being the future of the industry in a way that allows them to make the same impact that ECW once did about 15 years ago. Do I think that Chikara could do it? Absolutely, they could do it. You know, Chikara, if they had some TV time, if they had more exposure, could definitely make the same impact on the same level. They might go for a slightly different audience. They might not be luring MMA fans back necessarily. They might actually be appealing more to what WWE is creating in a generation of pro wrestling fans right now, which is a younger audience. You know, Chikara could easily take advantage of that if they were ever to, you know, have an opportunity to take advantage of it. But if it turns out to be Ring of Honor that's in charge of the future direction of wrestling, then I have no problem with it. And I think the point of this video was to kind of try to convince EmeraldFlowsion that Ring of Honor in that position will not lead pro wrestling down the wrong path. It might not be what he necessarily likes to watch most, but it will not lead to a further decline in pro wrestling in my mind. So that's kind of what the point of this video was. I hope this was, you know, it came off well. I'm out. Later.